Good evening, everyone. Would you please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty, and justice for all. Good evening. We have a representative from Suffolk County Police, Lieutenant Cahill, and Chief Lute from our Code Bureau to address concerns from the general public. Good evening. If you want to give a quick report, Chief, first, make sure you're, there you go, bud.
We're green.
And then if there are questions or concerns from the general public, we do FaceTime live these meetings so people who are not here in attendance can listen and participate. So if you have comment, we're going to ask you to come up and address them into the microphone so that the information can be transmitted and heard clearly. Thank you.
Welcome on this dreary night. Couple of points. I just want to remind everyone that school's open. Drive carefully when we have this kind of rain with leaves starting to fall, very slippery. Kids walking back and forth to school at all hours. You know, they run home because they're going to go back for sports, etc., late. So we want to just be careful driving. We did have a complaint about people speeding down Brook Road with kids walking. They go in the back entrance across the field, causes an issue. Brook Road's not a road you want to go fast on. You're going down that hill, slow down. I was going to mention something about catalytic converters. We all hear about it. It's in the news. There's really not much you can do to protect yourself from it. They seem very brazen. I did go to an online virtual training. The videos I watched on that, they're in and out in 5 minutes. So they have a cordless Sawzall. They go into your car, 2 cuts, and they're gone. I mean, you can get them etched. That does nothing for you until the guy at the junkyard gets it, and then he sees it's etched. Then they call Suffolk, and they look into it. By that time, the person who actually took it is not involved. Also, you can get a protective measure, a sleeve. But when they see that, they just cut further up forward and further up back, and they pull it out anyway. So there's really not much we can do about that. Suffolk PD is doing a lot more patrols on that. I don't think they have a real plan because it's just not that widespread here in our area right now. We also have an issue with thieves that walk up and down residential streets. They'll come up your driveway, and they're looking for unlocked doors. They're doing it in groups. There's a car that sits back 3 or 4 houses. They have 2 or 3 people on each side of the street, and they go right up to each house. If they see anything coming down the street, such as a police car, etc., they hide in the bushes. The car pulls over, and he looks at his phone. They're not breaking into cars. They're going to cars that are opening them. If the car's open, they all converge. They toss the car, take anything worth value. In very rare occurrences, they break a window if they can see something in plain sight that they know has extensive value. We have a running list, and this is of all traffic concerns, speeding, who's running stop signs, who's running red lights. Every month, we take the list, we update it, and we give it to Suffolk Police. The lieutenant has the copy. It'll go to the Code Bureau, and they do additional patrols of those areas. Again, we're one little village in a big, giant precinct, but when they do have spare time, the sector cars in this area will concentrate on those things. So if you do have any kind of traffic issue where you'd like to report, you can report it directly to Code Bureau, that's fine, or you can report it to us and I'll make sure it gets on this list the following month, which we give to the representative from Suffolk PD. And I think the lieutenant has some statistics for you he wanted to read.
Good evening, everyone. Just a little further on the catalytic converters. It's a problem not only in Suffolk County, it's a problem in Connecticut, New York City, Nassau County. Port Jefferson maybe hasn't gotten hit as hard as other hamlets in the 6th precinct, but it's an ongoing issue. It's going to spread up here, unfortunately. The thieves like to be near main arteries, roadway arteries, so that they can make a quick, high-speed, escape. We've had several times on the midnight shifts, we've caught them in the act, and they don't pull over for us. And, you know, at the end of the day, it's a property crime. It's extremely annoying to the homeowner, the car owner. It's annoying to us because we want to catch them. But we can't allow, as a supervisor, I can't allow a pursuit to go on for a property crime. So those pursuits get terminated, and the bad guys know this, so they don't pull over. And they're utilizing high-end cars. They're utilizing BMWs and Audis to do these thefts. They're in and out in less than a couple minutes. They pull up like a parallel parking situation on a residential street. One guy jumps out with a jack, jacks the car up, go under, cut it, jump back in the car. The guy that's driving doesn't even get out of the car, and they're out of there. So my advice to you is, you know, this is happening on the midnight tours into the morning hours, even when the sun comes up. They're brazen enough to do it in the morning time when, you know, it's light out. My advice is, if you see anything suspicious in your neighborhood, something like I just described, parallel parking situation, just a car that doesn't belong there, that's sitting there for a couple minutes, don't hesitate to call 911. We're aware, the officers are aware of the issue. If we get there and they're gone, so be it. We'll try to get a description from you. If we get there and they're still in the act, or if we're lucky enough to be around the corner when you call, maybe we'll catch them in the act, and maybe if we could box them in somehow, or keep them from getting away, you know, we'll be able to catch them. There's multiple crews out there doing it. They are targeting Honda Accords, primarily between the years 2000 and 2010, so they're older vehicles. For whatever reason, the catalytic converters, the metals in those catalytic converters, it's a little more worth their while. Maybe it's worth more money than other cars. So if you have a Honda Accord that fits those years, which a lot of us have Hondas, I would suggest putting it in the garage. They will go into your driveway and do this, believe it or not. If it's in the street, it's a little more at risk. Driveway, still at risk. Garage, they can't get it. So, you know, commercial vehicles, they're going after Fords, but, you know, we're getting a lot more Honda Accords that are getting hit. So that's the catalytic converter story. It's an ongoing problem, like I said, more than just here in Suffolk County. There have been arrests made in other states, but, you know, it's still going on. I tell you, every day we come in, we hear about more and more, and that's just in the 6th precinct. So, as far as another trend going on, which I'll just mention real quick, especially with the elderly community, we're getting a lot of phone call scams, a lot. And I know you see on TV now, they advise you, you know, if somebody tells you to go get a gift card, it's a scam. And that's true. If somebody brings up the idea of you going down to any retail store and purchasing a gift card, it's a scam, just hang up on them. Another one that's going around now, and it breaks my heart when these people come in and they tell us they lost $30,000, $35,000, you know, dollars that they wired to somebody because they got a phone call saying that a family member was in jail or a family member was kidnapped, and you need to send this money now if you want them to live. People believe this, and they don't call 911. They go and they, you know, try to help out their family member. It's all a scam. We had an elderly gentleman come into the precinct less than a week ago, $39,000 out of his bank account. He gave his banking information to somebody on the phone so that they were able to access his bank account. It's insured money, right up to $100,000, I think, is federally insured, but, you know, who wants to go through that aggravation of having to try to recoup that money? So if you get any phone calls like that, similar to that, please call 911 and report them. If you're not out any money, there's not a lot of investigation that's going to go on because it's just so prevalent. And most of the time, the bad guys are overseas. So it's not even something that the Suffolk County Police Department can investigate. But if you are out money, if you were unlucky enough or, you know, naive enough to send the money, then absolutely call us, because then we will write up a criminal complaint, and somebody will investigate that complaint. As far as crime over the last month in September, just looking at the numbers, everything's pretty consistent with the year prior. We had a criminal mischief to a window down at Carahan's office maybe a week ago, and that happened about 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning. Somebody decided to throw a address placard through her office window. He was arrested the following day. Now, later that day, we were made aware of the incident around noonish, and then later that day, I think on the 3 to 11 tour, one of the investigators had an idea who might be responsible, came down to the village, located him. He was still wearing the same sneakers that he had on in the video, and he admitted that he did it, so he was arrested and charged with felony criminal mischief. I don't have his name, I apologize for that. I'll bring that next month. So, as far as robberies, I'm glad to report no robberies during the month of September in Port Jefferson. Grand larceny, there was one grand larceny. I don't know if I have the details on that for you, but all in all, it was a low crime. Okay, so here's the grand larceny, perfect example. This was 15 Waterview Drive, Port Jefferson, scammed over $35,000. So, you know, again, we don't want to see that happen to anybody, so please just be vigilant with who is calling you on the phone. I have the list of traffic issues here that Fred was kind enough to give to me, and I'll make sure that our COPE office gets that list and addresses it. I know some of the locations we have patrol checks there, but we'll make sure that they all get addressed. All right, does anybody have any questions for me? Yes, sir. Yeah, I don't know what the procedure is. If it's time for
Jerome, is it a public safety issue, or, yes, okay, this is the time. Could you please come forward and state your name and address for the record and speak into the microphone? Make sure you hit that little button at the bottom so it goes green. Yes, unfortunately.
My name is Jerome Signoli.
Push the button.
Yeah, because you're addressing actually the sergeant. And
My name is Jerome Tognoli. I live at 115 William Street, although the street sign says William, and I would love to have that corrected since officially it is Williams. Can anyone do anything about that or not?
yes, we're going to address that right
Thank
now.
you.
The clerk is taking a note.
Anyway, William Street has a slight incline moving toward High Street. On William Street, as it approaches High Street, there is a sign that says, "No parking here to corner." But if you want to turn right or left, when you reach the intersection of William with High Street, you can't see to the right because cars are parked all the way right up to the corner. There should be a similar sign that says "No parking here to corner," probably 20 feet back, because anybody wanting to make a turn, either right or left, has to actually get into the intersection. There's a hill there. It's very hard to see beyond it, and it's actually very dangerous. More people are also using William Street now because with the stoplight down on Main Street, it becomes a safer route to take because of the stoplight. And so therefore there is a slight increase in traffic. You can see to the left because there's no parking on that side anyway, but to the right of William Street, it's very unsafe.
Okay, so they're parking on both sides of the street towards the high end on William?
No.
They're parking on High Street?
On High Street.
Oh, I
yes.
apologize. I thought,
On the legal side, I know where he's speaking of. They do, there's about 6 cars parked there
Yes.
habitually.
okay.
Yeah, there's too many cars there, and they're right up to the corner.
Okay.
And you cannot see to make a turn right or left, because if cars are coming in from that direction, it's a blind
Right,
spot.
okay. I thought they were on William. I'm sorry. I
Sorry,
misheard
I'm
you.
not clear.
That's okay. So we're going to have to look at the code. Brian's looking at the code right now, Attorney Egan, to see if parking on both sides of High is permissible. And if it is, we're going to have to change that. We're going to have to make it impermissible. We'll have to change the code, and then we'll have to
There's
put
no
up signage.
parking for cars coming up High Street toward William on the right. It's people are only parked on the
On the
Yeah.
west side of the road.
yeah.
Well, we're checking the code to see if that's permissible. It might not be permissible at all to be parking on High Street.
Oh,
So
I
we'll
see.
check on it, and we'll and then make sure we have proper signage up.
I appreciate it.
Thank you, Jerome. I appreciate you coming in.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Any other comments or concerns with respect to public safety for this evening for the Suffolk County and/or Chief Lute? No. Okay, thank you, gentlemen. Thanks for your help and assistance,
Thank you.
keeping our community safe. No signs on high? Okay. What did the code say, Bri?
High Street's kind of, it's very complicated, there's a lot of mixed bag all the way down. Williams is very clear, I mean, to clear the Williams issue, Williams provides on the north side between Avenue A and High Street, no parking on the north side. On High Street, it's very mostly east side, and it's very specific. Spring Street East, north was a point 147 feet, then Spring Street to Myrtle Avenue, then Thompson Street to Prospect is very
So what does it say, it's Spring to Myrtle? That's,
references Myrtle, between Myrtle Avenue and Franklin Street. Chestnut and Myrtle, Spring Street East, north for 147 feet.
Barbara, you're going to check this out with Steve Gallagher. Let us know if the signage is proper or what. And why there are all of a sudden lots of cars on that road. That's also something we want to look into. Okay. I'm going to go to Board of Trustees reports. I'll start on my far left with Trustee Cassay. Oh. All right. Well, we'll go to my far right with Trustee Shepro to start. Yes, she wants her agenda. But Lauren will start us off. Then I'll come back to you, Rebecca.
And why can't Rebecca go first?
She doesn't have her agenda.
Oh,
She wants this. She needs this.
I'll go.
Then I need it back. Go ahead, Lauren.
I don't have much tonight. I just want to give an update on the Parks and Recreation Advisory Council. We'll have our first meeting on October 27th. Those meetings will be the last Thursday of every month. And Trustee Laux and I will meet with the respective department heads of Parks and Recreation prior to those meetings so that we have a robust and active agenda for the committee to look at. The country club and the social hospitality. One more thing on recreation is I just wanted to give a quick update about the golf outing, which was postponed from September 22nd due to rain to this Thursday. The registration is now closed, but I think we have a really robust participation level. Over 100 people have registered. We're hoping for good weather, and sponsors will help us cover our expenses so we can keep the entry fee at a great value. Ron Carlson, who is the honorary tournament chair in recognition for all his years of dedication to Port Jeff Village and the Port Jeff Country Club, serving on the Country Club Management Advisory Council as well as the Greens Committee. The Turn will be serving a signature Bloody Mary type refreshment in his honor called the Carlson. Okay, so in terms of communications, I think the mayor has asked me to present some findings during our next mid-month board meeting this month, which is the 17th, Mayor Grant?
We have a conflict. We have to go to the Lawrence Aviation meeting that day at 4 o'clock at the town offices, so we may be changing that meeting, something we didn't address last night. So,
Well, looking forward to it
Yep.
whenever it is. And then in terms of the Country Club Social and Hospitality Task Force, we've met several times, and also included at those meetings are new management representatives from the Waterview, who are very interested and engaged in helping to create a more welcoming, accessible, and fun environment up at the Country Club central facility to welcome residents, members in a more robust way. We're working at our next meeting on creating a calendar of events for the Waterview folks to react to and respond to, and even including some events over the winter months. So stay tuned for that. That's it.
Thank you, Lauren. Go to, on my far left, to Trustee Cassay.
Thank you for bearing with the technical difficulties. All right, so for the Residence Night content, I have to catch up with Barbara Sakovich to get a packet. I have not. I realize I did not send that email. It was in my draft box. But that's something that Trustee Shepro and I discussed in our communications meeting regarding the opportunity. There's a new residence night. I don't know how many residents when you first moved in came to new residence night. I did. Great. So that's part of the reason I'm sitting here, at this dais right now, because I was invited to be part of one of the committees, and then, became more involved and connected with the Port Jefferson Village government. So we are seeing this as an opportunity to, engage our new residents, and maybe we'll open it up to kind of any residents that want to come by and have that first resident experience, even if y'all didn't have it the first time. Why miss out? So, just moving forward, we'll be looking at what's in that packet and taking any suggestions as to, how we might, if there's any updates that want to be made so that we have residents being informed and engaged from the minute they move in. Looking for resident of the volunteer of the month. Can't speak. Got my flu shot today. Volunteer of the Month nominations. It's something that Charmaine and I have been working with about a year now through the e-report, highlighting different volunteers in the village and the great work they do. So if any of my fellow board members or residents want to send in, nominate a fellow resident for their great work in any capacity volunteering in the village, I highly look forward to that. Regarding Johnson Controls, this is something that Kevin Wood and I went down to see Patchogue. Was celebrating a lot of updates that were both environmentally and fiscally responsible to their facilities, and so we're looking to see if any of that's appropriate for Port Jefferson Village. Anything from HVAC to solar and all this. So I'll continue looking into that, and I continue to discuss the Complete Streets concept with Trustee Snaden. I'm highly recommending that the village look into investing into a study, which can be anywhere between $30,000 and $80,000. But this would be something that benefits all residents. It would assess how to make the village more walkable and potentially bikeable as well. How to connect all of these different residents to our commercial areas, our public transit. This is something that would be used by residents of all ages. So we continue to look into what that process would be and make a more formal proposal moving forward. And that is my report for tonight.
Thank you, Rebecca. We'll go to Stan next, please. Trustee Laux.
Thank you, Mayor. I have an announcement from the Parks Department. It's that time of year that we all have to start thinking about removing our vessels from the racks, the village racks. I'll give this notice again in the middle of the month. However, if you want to make a note of it, the vessels need to be removed by November 1st. This is also the time of year that the Parks Department begins to shift from summer and fall and start to look ahead. The West Beach is closed. Of course, the East Beach has been closed. Grass cutting is slowing down. Halloween and Dickens and the holidays are right around the corner. And before you know it, they'll be here, and Parks will be very involved in those decorations. Some news from the Country Club. This has been a very interesting and challenging year at the Country Club. We had a major drought, as we all know. We had a superintendent abruptly leave. We could not find an assistant golf professional. However, I'm very proud of the way Jake Anderson, our head pro, golf pro, and Pat Sullivan, our new golf course superintendent, met the challenge. Jake and Pat put together the staffs that reflect their pride in the maintenance and operation of our club. Although we lost some of our fairways due to the lack of water, Pat and his crew, through many hours of extra hard work and expense, have them well on their way to full recovery. All of the fairways that were affected have been roped off. We have new grass growing already. The healing will continue. In the interim, in the interim, we are looking for some qualified and experienced golf professionals to join our staff to work alongside Jake. Jake worked all alone this summer. And once again, I cannot come up with the words that would be fitting for the work that Jake and Pat have done this summer under very difficult conditions. I need to inform all of us that the board approved new membership rates earlier this evening. This means that those potential members that have been waiting for the early bird, and there are right now, I believe, about 43 people on that waiting list, they'll be able to sign up starting tomorrow, as early as tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock in the membership office. This program allows new members to play the remaining days of this season and all of next season. We're also putting in place a new orientation program for all members. Tentatively, it'll be on a Wednesday evening, every Wednesday evening at 7 o'clock in the all-purpose room up at the country club. All members, new and old, will be required to attend these orientation meetings. We don't feel that everyone needs this experience. However, we have a number of new members, and there is some protocol when you're on the golf course. It'll be an educational experience for everyone who attends. And those that are taking advantage of the opportunity to play tennis up at the club, as we've announced earlier, courts 7 and 8 have remained open the entire season. We intend to keep them open as long as possible. Right now, I estimate probably until mid-November, if the weather holds. We're going to continue to maintain those courts for those people that want to go up and enjoy a game of tennis. Thank you.
Thank you, Stan. Appreciate your report. Deputy Mayor Snaden, sorry.
Thank you, Mayor. My beautification efforts continue to tack on to what Trustee Laux was saying about the Parks Department getting ready to put up decorations. I met with them. Last year we added a bunch of new decorations that you may have noticed, the snowflakes, the lighted snowflakes up on the poles, and some new garlands across the streets. We will be working as we move forward with the bid to possibly add to that collection, move some things around, and just make it beautiful once again here in the village for the holidays. Speaking of the bid, we did have a meeting with the bid and the Chamber of Commerce together with the village representatives. The mayor was there, and we're going to be having quarterly meetings moving forward just to make sure everyone is on the same page with their activities, their events, and so we can all collaborate and bounce ideas off each other, let each other know what we're all doing. So it was a very positive meeting. We look forward to more of those in the future. With the ARC, we have a new appointment to the ARC. We look forward to working with Mr. Shane Henry, who's a resident here, who has a background in construction and historic preservation, so he will be a wonderful new member to that committee. And currently the ARC is working on the St. Charles updates to the emergency department, a retaining wall. Some changes were made according to the ARC's recommendations, which were all very positive, and that's an ongoing process. We're also looking at a couple of sign permits that have come in. One is for Sea Creations that will be on the front of the mall, where the Muse sign is, and the Lobster House sign, and also a new sign at the bank. And that concludes my report for tonight.
Thank you, Kathy Ann. Just a couple of quick things. October is upon us, and it's also Paint Port Pink Month. And honestly, I really appreciate the efforts that the Mather organization goes through in involving the entire community. They walk door to door to the merchants and deliver the pink lights and the pink flags. And I love to see the banners go up and the pink lights wrapped around our poles and our pink tree out in front of our village hall. It makes a nice concerted effort and reminds us how fortunate those of us who've never had to suffer, or a family member suffer either breast cancer or cancer in general. And so I appreciate the support and the involvement of the entire community in painting Port Pink. Myself and several members of the board and members of the planning board and zoning board and the planning and building department were invited to tour the new Conifer building. I'm not sure, I don't recall if I reported on this in public yet, but we had a tour of the interior of the building. The building is in a great shape, beautiful apartments, 2 bedrooms in the mid 900 square footage range, 1 bedroom slightly over 750 square feet, all perfectly ready to be handicap or disability accessible, with many beautiful features inside, amenities for the general public, a common area with fireplace, beautiful reception hallway, views that you only can see when you get 3 stories above. And the rent schedule is up. It's up at Conifer. It's posted. I would like to put that available on our website so you can see the affordability of these units. And applications are being taken at this time. 45 apartments, a combination of 1 bedrooms and 2 bedrooms. An example of a 1 bedroom, the median income would be about $37,000 a year, and that affordability of that apartment would be in the $800 range for a 1 bedroom. The 2 bedroom, the ratio goes up to a combined income of no more than potentially $67,000 for a couple, and the price point on a 2 bedroom is approximately $1,500. You can't touch anything in this village in those price points that's safe, affordable, elevator, lighting, all the amenities, train, walk 1 step from the train station. So I applaud the Conifer organization on this project. You can see that Station Street, the curbs are in. We're just waiting for believe it or not, we're waiting for bolts. Everything else is ready to go for the street except for the bolts that are required to bolt down the light fixtures. And that's how, when you are doing projects of this scale, you wait on nuts and bolts, literally, to complete a streetway. And so they should be in hopefully momentarily this week. We'll be able to complete the paving. You'll see that streetscape come alive. One of the things I wanted to discuss with the Board of Trustees, that maybe we'll get to at the next meeting, is we've been calling it fondly Station Street, just because, but we don't necessarily have to call it Station Street. So there'll be a conversation about what we should call this new street as the gateway, the southern new gateway of the village of Port Jefferson. And we do have a ribbon cutting on the calendar for October 26th. I'm looking at Barbara, if my memory serves me right. And it'll be a great new start to a total revitalization of Upper Port. You can see at 1 North, there's a lot of dirt, excavation going on. Mr. Gito has installed all of the drainage. It is the 26th. Mr. Gito has installed a lot of the drainage that was required for that site. He ran into some complications. He's making amendments to his site plan. The north side, the boundary line there was a little bit more, the soil was not as compact, so he's making some modifications to his site plan there, but work is underway. And on Conifer 2, which is the project that would be directly contiguous with Conifer 1 and run from Conifer 1 to Perry Street, that project is in the works at the Building and Planning Department, going to formal hearing very shortly. It's almost a mirror image of the Conifer 1. Importantly, Conifer 1 has on the main level 3,000 square feet, beautiful space for a wet space for a new bagel eatery, coffee, something that'll help support the population up there. And so we're really happy to see that streetscape come to life. Barbara, please make a note and have Richie Harris address the sidewalk conditions there. I saw a lot of fencing down. I saw the sidewalk being blocked. That needs to be remediated, and I forgot to call you on that this morning. Accident. Okay, so we got to clean it up. We expect bids in on 2 projects that are up for bid this coming Friday, October 7th. One is the upper wall which would potentially be phase 2 of the beach restoration. That bid for the upper wall is due Friday afternoon here on October 7th, as well as the bid opening for the proposed bunker restoration project for the Port Jeff Golf Course. Once those bids are in, as reported with Raymond and the TBR, the Board of Trustees will be revisiting the upper wall at the Country Club and whether we are building or retreating. Kathy Ann and I, Deputy Mayor and I, are going to the town of Brookhaven on October 17th for a very important 4 o'clock meeting. It will be an update on the Lawrence Aviation property and the where Suffolk County is with the directives from the federal government to clean up the site, whether the property has been effectively transferred from Cohen to the county, and where the train station is with the proposed electrification of the line and the use of that property. There's been a lot of rumors swirling around, so we're going to get it right from Sarah Lansdale's, report. All concerned agencies will be in attendance at this meeting, so it'll be the town, the villages, the county, the state. Everybody will be there at the same time, so I'm sure it's going to be an important announcement. I was contacted by the governor's office. We may be seeing Governor Hochul in the village of Port Jefferson in the very near future, making an announcement on the pier about the Orsted project, the high wind project coming to the north shore the south shore, of Long Island. But the service vessel will be coming into the Deepwater Harbor. They'll be using the National Grid pier to supply the vessel. The vessel will be coming in perhaps every third week or so, staying for maybe 6 to 8 hours at most, with the staff changing and the boat being reprovisioned. And it's a very soft use. They're not building any buildings. They're just transporting employees and provisions to and from the vessel site. So that project is moving along very nicely. They've taken a lot of our recommendations. They will not be using Beach Street to commute. They will be using the LIPA easement. And so they've been taking a lot of our directives as to have very little impact on the community. We did effectively sign contracts on the purchase of the sheep pasture zombie house. Engelbright is fierce about saving this structure. He believes it could be the oldest structure still standing on its original foundation in the town of Brookhaven's history. That is significant if you think about that. So Steve set aside the funding with the state, thanks to Brian Egan's office, working with the foreclosure attorney representing the landowner or the property owner at this time. We are hoping to get that transferred over to the ownership of the village of Port Jefferson, and we will be working with the New York State Preservation offices and the Historical Society on restoring that property to its rightful original landscape. Wanted to announce that at our Drown Meadow Cottage, we had over 300 people come through the museum on Spy Ring Day, which was September, I forgot, it was the same day of the regatta, 10th or 11th. It was fantastic. They had a great showing. They are having another open house, and I believe that's on October 12th from 6 to 8 p.m. They're really only inviting true history buffs, so if you really want to get in there, they're meeting with representatives of our Historical Society and other surrounding communities to see this really great exhibit. And I also wanted to announce that Mark Sternberg, who's, again, a Port Jeff Village graduate, was published recently in the National Archives magazine, The Archivist. And it's a new article about Selah Strong and his connections to Port Jefferson, the Rowe brothers, and the village of Port Jeff, and the role in the Spy Ring. I also had coffee with Nick Amato, the president of the Historical Society. I wanted to make sure that they are feeling very much included in these advances that we're making in Port Jefferson's history at the Drown Meadow Cottage House. Many years ago, I had met with the Historical Society, I want to say probably 8, if not longer, and I asked if they wanted to take on this site as part of their Port Jeff Historical Society campus. And they respectfully declined, saying they have enough on their plate in their Prospect campus. And so we still remain responsible for the DMC, and we're taking very good care of her. And I'm very happy to see that we're advancing on the museum designation with a great crew led by our historian Chris Ryan and Mark Sternberg, doing a great job. Worked with Michael Schwarting. We did award the contract to Campani and Schwarting to continue to work on our flood studies with New York State. Rebecca's kind of leading the charge there as the trustee liaison, but I effectively handed her the football over the last 30 days. We're focusing on dredging, primarily in dredging the back of the Mill Creek from behind Village Hall to the east and north, up until we get to the roadway where the creek goes under the road. We met with also Councilman Kornreich, Kathy and I to talk about town issues, but we're trying to immediately look at determining who owns the, I always forget the word for this, it's the flap? The tide gate, thank you, underneath the road that's in that pipe, because we feel if we scope it and we dredge it and we clean it out, we want to make sure that we either have permission or the entity that's responsible for it is maintaining it, because that floodgate or tide gate could be charged with sand and silt and debris, and it may not be operating effectively. So we're working with DAC to find out what we need to get a permit. We have $500,000 from Suffolk County Jumpstart, so we have money ready to use. And so that'll be something that I'd really like to get accomplished sooner than later. Barbara and I and the treasurer, Kathy Anna, deputy mayor, Mr. Wood, Rich Harris from building and planning, we all met around the conference room table last week. Of course, you notice we don't have Mr. Joe Palumbo here as our village administrator, clerk of the works. Yeah, the treasurer, right, Denise? Yeah. And we're looking at all large projects, making sure everybody knows who's on first base, who's on second base, funding-wise, project-wise. Glad to see the top execs back at the table, working together and making sure all departments are running and have the resources that they need. And for my last report, Dickens is back, and it's bigger and better and stronger than ever. So we can officially maybe call this the 25th, because I know we were calling last year 24.5, because, most of the merchants really were just getting their feet back, but we've been having a really robust rebound. We asked when we met with the merchants for that quarterly meeting, we said, how was your summer? Our summer went without really any tragic incident. I mean, it was really a peaceful summer, a lot of good weather, a lot of tourism. And they said business is really good. The numbers are up and better than ever. So we're happy to hear that. So we're expecting, weather permitting, a very good Dickens. I want to thank Charmaine and the work of Sue Arfici over at the Village Center, because these guys are the magic. They make a lot of things happen in the background that we take for granted. But right now, if you go to portjeff.com/Dickens, you'll see all the sponsorship opportunities up there, so people can just click on a venue and sponsor it and put money in a shopping cart, thanks to the partnership with the Conservancy and the Arts Council. And, instead of Barbara having to direct mail and lick stamps and put stuff in envelopes and, but sometimes it's good to do that too and talk to people, right? Yeah. So Dickens, is an undertaking that costs approximately up to $35,000. We like to get the sponsorship money and keep the venues open to the general public so they can get inside the churches and into Village Center and take the kids out for a little fun, merriment, and see Santa Claus and do all the things that are traditional for the holidays. Dickens through December is an initiative, so we can help these merchants get through now what will be their soft shoulder season. And I'm just happy to see Dickens come back. I will try not to fall down a flight of stairs as early in the event as possible and not land in Mather Hospital for the entire event. And with that, I will turn the microphone over to the general public for comment and anything we need to say. Myrna? No, come now. Michael Martin.
Good evening, Michael Mart, 205 Bayview Terrace, Port Jefferson. One resident out of 8,000 attends a meeting to speak.
He's on. He's got green.
Okay. I wanted to address several issues.
Mm-hmm.
I was under the impression that the board would be discussing and finalizing your code with regard to rentals in the village.
We are having a work session on that at the next board meeting. Date to be determined because we just got called into this Lawrence Aviation thing. So we're going to and we're putting together some time. I know Mr. Harris and Mr. Egan are still working on the code, and it's not as easy as it sounds, Michael.
Right, I know I sat in a couple meetings, and
Yep.
I watched one on video that lasted more than an hour. Mr. Harris presented it, and you kind of concluded that maybe a 30-day rental minimum would be
Yep.
in effect.
It's
would
it's
applaud
going to
that.
be a you cannot rent for no longer than, but we still have
No less than.
no less than. I'm sorry, but we're still crunching those days and times. And we at the executive meeting that I mentioned, I said to Mr. Harris, like, is this coming before the board here? Are we going to have a code to change or?
Well, I'm glad to see you're still working on
Yeah.
it, and it is still,
Yep.
much happening around the country on exactly that issue, so we don't want to get caught short.
Agreed.
And I praise our local newspaper that they brought to our attention, at least mine, that the board have not agreed or voted yet on whether the completion of the wall to save the building above it has been made. I appreciate that.
Thanks to Raymond.
A lot has been happening in the world in terms of climate and engineering studies. I won't go over those. We all know it. But as someone who's followed this for a while, as you know, and my impression is that the major focus is to save something of the past, that building, which has been underutilized and is now in danger, instead of providing for the future. We have a younger population coming in. The nature of their interests will probably change. So rather than put all of our efforts into saving the past, please look forward to creating the future that we might want here. And in doing that, I think it's important that the residents have an opportunity to learn more and express their views on the final decision. And maybe even like with that at school board, have an opportunity to vote on the final decision. I appreciate that. The third issue is one of, the village of Port Jefferson is a geopolitical incorporated village that has a very distinct identity and should be protected. And I noticed that up in Port Jefferson Station, Terryville, that there's a facility being advertised called Brightview, and it advertises itself as Brightview Port Jefferson. But it's not in Port Jefferson. And I called them and spoke to them about it. Some insisted that it was in Port Jefferson, but it's not. And
Where is this located?
I'm sorry?
Where is this located?
Directly across from Uncle Giuseppe's, right in Port Jefferson. I kid you not. And I think that we should be.
The new place.
I would think that the village board, the lawyer, would protect our identity against false use of our name as a selling pitch. That you would look into that. Your responses to any of that?
I'm going to talk to legal counsel and see if we can do anything about that. I mean, it's Port Jefferson Station, but it's not Port Jefferson Village.
That's right.
And I don't know if we can actually do anything about that, but we'll look into it. I mean,
Sign on the
I
outside
hear
of
ya.
the facility says Brightview, Port Jefferson, period.
understood.
Right, okay, so
I could
where
say
I live, I
could
see
say
Belt-
Brightview Smithtown and still not be in Smithtown. My point is,
yeah, but
it might be a freedom of speech thing, but I'm listening.
I think
and
that they
we'll-
would listen if you spoke. The developers of it, one of them had lived in Port Jefferson, owns property in Port Jefferson. They know the distinction.
Oh, I'm sure they do.
I think they do too.
Yeah.
So I think it's insulting not to call it Port Jeff Station. It's an insult to Port Jeff Station that they chose to use Port Jefferson, whether you think they have the right to do that or not, or Terryville for that matter. Okay, thank you.
Understood. Thank you, Michael. Yes, gentleman in the back.
Do I have to press the button here or something?
That's
like
green. I see it being green.
that? Just press.
No, you're already on.
Okay, sorry.
That's okay.
So my name is Anthony Mistretta. I'm at 210 Main Street. Just one little issue I wanted to ask about is there's that, it's like a motion detector in the rocket ship park. It's pretty bright, and I've contacted Dave Melius before about it. So unfortunately, it shines right into my bedroom at night, and it's like supposed to be a motion detector, but it's been slowly getting like to be on all the time. So now it's on all the time. So it's very bright. I have pictures on my phone if you need to see
You're
it. But
at 210 Main,
yes,
and the motion light at Rocket Ship Park is shining in your bedroom?
yes, it comes right in because I guess it's really bright and it's very high and it's like directly right at my apartment, and I guess the two apartments on the side of me, although I didn't talk to them. But so it comes right in. Like,
Okay.
and my walls are white, so at night it's really like the sun or the
Yeah.
moon is coming in.
Okay.
But it's just gotten like worse over the years. When I first came, I spoke to Dave a little bit about it, and
Okay.
they try to adjust it, but it's still bad. So I just wanted to ask if there's a way that could be
Yeah.
more.
The gentleman back there, Mr. Wood, is going to look into that and take care of that for you. So, and just to be clear, Anthony, if I'm looking out your back window, let's just say at Rocket Ship, is it going to be the system on the left-hand side of the park, or is it on the right-hand side, or do you have any idea?
It's like directly behind the park, like right in the center in the back.
Okay.
It's not like the tennis courts and it's not the basketball courts. It's like
Right. It's in the, I think we may have two in the actual Rocket Ship Park, so that's why I was asking, but we'll look into both of them.
Okay, thank you.
No, thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate that. Anyone else this evening? October 3rd. It's a beautiful, balmy fall evening. No? Everybody's okay? Good. I'm glad to hear that. Thanks for coming out. Appreciate you being here, and look forward to seeing you next month. Take good care.
Motion to,
Motion to adjourn at 6:58.
I'll second.
Seconded by Lauk. So all in favor? Thank you.